Hello there. Today we will talk about the truth about the Z8 and what Nikon are likely to do by the end of this year. So there are these rumors going around about the Z8 recently. Nikon have apparently decided to buy the 61 megapixel sensor from Sony, and that will apparently form the heart of the Nikon Z8. So a new Nikon with an old Sony sensor when Nikon have already cracked the fastest full frame sensor out there. That doesn't make sense to me. Let's talk about this. The rumors say that the camera will have a 61 megapixel Sony sensor and will be able to achieve a whopping 240 megapixels with sensor shift. I will tell you what's really going on. So watch till the end. It's important because if you want to spend money on cameras and if you're looking at a few Nikon options, maybe you would want to know what's coming next so that you can either decide to wait or buy what's available right now. So that's one good reason to actually know what's happening in the camera world. So according to these rumors, the Z8 will be the extra high, ultra high resolution camera that Nikon will put out there, competing with the rumored 80 or 100 megapixel Sony or Canon bodies that are expected to come out, because that's where the competition will go, the 80 plus megapixel territory. The next generation high resolution full frame sensors will logically compete with Fuji's small sized medium format 100 megapixel bodies. That's the megapixel barrier to break. So why would Nikon make a camera for the next 3 to 4 years to compete with and still be okay being the third best or the fourth best if you consider the Fuji, when the Z9 has really proven itself to be the king right now? Nikon had one strong blow and they are almost at the top again. Why would they not retain that place if they have to get into the high megapixel game? Because you see, they have launched some world beating lenses in the 40mm, 400mm f2.8 and the 800mm f6.3. No one has the equivalent of these lenses when you consider their flexibility, the flexibility of the 400mm with the built-in teleconverter, and the price of the 800mm f6.3. The similar lens from Canon is going to be priced almost double or more than double. Nikon is clearly setting itself up for the 80 plus megapixel game, because you see, with teleconverters, the image quality will degrade, and when you have a 100 megapixel, 80 megapixel body, you will see the degradation in the image quality by using those teleconverters. So Nikon is clearly setting itself up for the 80 plus megapixel game in my view. I'm sure 61 megapixel is going to show a lot of detail as well, but obviously you're breaking a barrier when you go 80 plus 100, right? So I do not think that the Z8 will be that camera. I think it will be the Z7 III, a more slower photocentric camera but high megapixels. I think the Z8 will be the D850 replacement. Now hold on, because the D850 of 2020 end is a very different idea, right? It's not the same thing as just a great photo camera. A great professional hybrid camera in 2022 will be a different proposition than just a great photo camera, and I'll come back to this later. The Z6 III, however, will be a faster and probably a more capable A7 IV, Sony A7 IV. Imagine a Sony A7 IV with everything Nikon, but that's faster and it's more capable. It's better built. I think that's what the Z6 III will be. It will give me an opportunity to sell off my A7 IV. I asked Nikon to ensure that I'm able to sell off the A7 IV without making me miss anything about it, which means a 35 megapixel 14 fps camera, 35 or there, somewhere there, but 14 fps camera, much faster than the 10 fps of the Sony A7 IV, and with that amazing Z9 autofocus, and maybe even better than the Z9 autofocus, more reliable bird in flight and action photography performance in a compact body. It will have full sensor 4K with Nikon RAW and 10-bit 422. I won't be surprised if they have 4K 120, 4K 90, if not 120 maybe. The Z8 will compete. I think the Z8's job is to compete with something like the Canon R5. It's sort of middle of the range, but a great hybrid camera doing great video and doing great photo without the problems of the R5. You see, we really don't have, we have great ideas in those cameras. Like, I mean, look at the A7 IV. It's almost like a mini A1. Of course, I have not used the A1, but people who have used the Alpha 1, they say that the A7 IV is almost like a mini A1. So, but it still has a few things that's not perfect, right? Similar thing with the Canon R5. It's a great idea, but it's not perfected, right? So it will be I think the Z8 will be a 40 to 50 megapixel camera with a backlit professional body, heavily focused on being a high-end professional true hybrid camera, while the Z6 III will do the same job at a much lower price point with much fewer compromises. So the Z8 will have to have something like 6K 660, 8K 30, 4K 120 with full sensor readout. So and you know, when you look at 4K 6K 60, you're likely to have much better file formats with 10-bit 422, but maybe the 8K 30 will be only 10-bit 420, not 422. It will essentially be a slightly slower shooting Z9 with a smaller body, or at least that's what I would want. That's what, you know, whenever we've spoken with others on this channel, for example, Vagan or Ryan Troy, those are the same idea. So I think we're all thinking alike, and I think that's the sort of need of the hour in the Nikon lineup. It will be that 15 fps wildlife camera too, but not a 61 megapixel body. I think the 61 megapixel body, that's the Z7 III's job, because you see, the next Z6 will not have a 24 megapixel sensor. It's going to have a 30 something megapixel sensor. When you have a 30 something megapixel sensor on the Z6 III at 45 megapixel, the Z7 III is sort of redundant unless it offers you more, and it can offer you more by changing that megapixel count in the sensor and going up to 61, right? So it makes sense for the Z7 III. The other probability is that the Z8 will be another 100 megapixel body, ultra high resolution photo camera, and that's it. It's not going to target being a Nikon's version of a Canon R5 and be a great and perfect R5 slash Z8. Or there will be no Z8 and the Nikon Z6 III will do that job. Now, like I promised, I will simplify this for you. The two new cameras that Nikon have registered are likely to be what then, right? Obviously the Z6 III and the Z7 III. That makes most logical sense. It's time. And the main reason why the Z6 III and the Z7 III will be different from the second generation will be the video capabilities and the new RAW format. You don't get that kind of high quality video files out of those cameras, directly out of those cameras. So and that's what I strongly feel. So if you think that you want a camera, but for you 45 megapixels is little too much, but the 24 megapixel is not there because it's 2020 or going to be 2023 soon, then I would ask you to wait for the sweet middle from Nikon, and that I think is going to be the Nikon Z6 III. So what do you think it will be? I really think the newly registered cameras from Nikon bodies, I think they are going to be the third generation Z6 and Z7, and I think we're going to see that by the end of this year. And I really want Nikon to not push it to the next year. I want them to come out somewhere around October, and I think the rest of us have been really waiting for a camera like that, because now that the Z9 is out, we want that in our cameras. But and we also know that you're going to get some sort of firmware update for the Z6 II and the Z7 II, and we know that it will not match the Z9, and that's fine. But I think the third generation versions of these bodies will come very close to the Z9, because I've been using the Sony A7 IV, and with third party lenses, excellent focusing ability in low, especially in low light conditions, because it's when the sun is behind the subject, or it's when there's not enough light, that you see the, the Z6 and Z7 current bodies sort of suffer a little bit. So it's not really the focusing system as a whole. I think it's just the pattern recognition ability, the software, the sense, all of those things put together. I think there is a little bit of scope for improvement, and I can see there is a certain amount of gap between the A7 IV and the Z6 II, which I did not see when I compared the Z6 II with the A7 III. But there is a distinct difference when it comes to the A7 IV. So A7 IV, like I said, is very close to the flagship camera. So you get this beautiful hybrid camera, and you don't get the extreme performances on any dimension, but you get a very well-rounded body, and that's what you need from Nikon, right? Because the lenses are all out, and more lenses are on the way. So that's what I think. Do share your ideas in the comment section, and if you like this, do subscribe. That's going to really help the channel. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, so that the channel can grow and reach out to more people. I'll see you very soon with another video.